Hello, my friends. Welcome to a very special little mini episode. I don't know what we're going to call these, Ryan, but I think we're going to start doing a lot more of these. We're jumping on with a bit of sort of coverage of the news of what's going on over the last couple of days in pro wrestling. So wherever you are, thank you for joining us. We've got to talk about the releases, Ryan. It's the big story.
Yep.
It's the big story. Before we get to the big one, I don't want anyone getting angry about this. Of course, you might have seen the latest, just hot off the presses, has been one more release. Don't know if you've seen it. But this one was posted up here. The Rock, WWE insiders have demanded.
I bloody wish, Billy. Why'd you get my hopes up like that?
Just wanted to get out of the way. Listen, we're going to try and do as much of a positive spin on this as we can. Lots of reports going around. It's been interesting, I think, how people are really trying to vilify Triple H in this. And then in the same time, folk have been going like, well, hang on, if Triple H wanted them there, then they would be there in WWE. I've got to say, like, having worked for a corporate creative entity in my time, right? That decision to like get rid of you has nothing to do with your skills, your talent, and all that. Like, it's sometimes there are so many aspects to it. So I want to say, before we go any further, like, every person that has been released is an incredible talent, great wrestlers. And to echo Mark Cardona, and I know you're not necessarily the biggest Cardona fan, but if there was an example of hitting the ground running, it's fucking Matt Cardona. Yep. I'll say that much. So it's sad news, man. It's sad news, these releases. What was your initial thoughts when you started hearing the names coming out sort of late Friday night, early Saturday morning?
Well, first things first, I would like to say, commiserations to everybody in the sense that I hope that they're all good. I wish them all the best in the future. And I'm sure that we'll see all of these guys, both male and female, come out the other side, better 100%. Wrestlers and what to prove. I must say, I've got used to as they quote unquote spring cleaning releases by now. It's not the first time, it certainly won't be the last time. It's always at this point of the year WWE seems to make what they call budget cuts. We're hearing different reports as to why some people have been released. For example, Braun Strowman is apparently because of high wages and they couldn't justify paying him the amount he was on. With some of the NXT talent, we're hearing it. Dave Meltzer said it might be because of a lack of training or poor training ethics, stuff like that. Whatever the reasons are, I'm not stunned that we have arrived here. Maybe some of the names have stunned me more than others, but a few high-profile names. And just to touch on what you were saying, Billy, not to get carried away because we want to make this kind of bulletin-sized in and out sort of topic, but I mean, cuts are normal in any form of business, any form of sport. I've seen WWE taking a lot of stick for this, and it's not nice. I wish WWE done more to protect their talents and give them an opportunity. But, it happens in American football. It happens in football over here. It happens in basketball. It happens in Tesco, for goodness sake.
It happens in media.
People are let go.
Every walk of life.
And a lot of people seem to think that it's personal or whatever. I can virtually guarantee that none of it would have been personal. Maybe there is a couple of people who are hearing stuff that might have had certain issues, but all of that, this is not the time for conspiracy theories. This is the time for wishing the best and looking out for these guys and helping them with the rest of their future, which I hope other companies do in the next 30 to 90 days, depending on the garden leave status.
Definitely. And you know something, man, like listening to a lot of the conspiracy theories and I mean, look, I would have rather not woken up and saw some of those names getting released. I want to make that clear. The Strowman thing is an interesting one. The Strowman is the one that made me go, oh, for fuck, really? Because I actually think Braun has been great in this second run with the company. I really do.
Really unfortunate with the injury time that he missed as well. Remember, he picked up a big injury which kept him out for a year. So he's been unlucky, man.
Yeah, big guys doing big guy things. Like, in order, and something that really stands out, like him versus Bronson Reed was a great feud last summer. And I think would have been great on Netflix because it would have been something really different. Like, you're tuning in to see an attraction work with Jacob Fatu. Great as well. So I was surprised. I guess it comes down to this. It's a corporation. It's bullshit. It is. You don't like it, but it's a fact of life. I'd imagine, and this occurred to me yesterday, that it's not a good look for them to ask people to take a wage cut
And who's going to say yes to a wage cut? You know,
Going to say yes to a wage cut. Exactly.
That's not me trying to justify sacking somebody or justify letting somebody go, but realistically, you turn around to anybody and say, "Oh, hi, would you like to take a 40% wage cut?" They're not going to say, they're not going to agree to that.
Exactly, and that's probably, maybe that's something that'll be revisited at one time, and it's also not good for a company that's doing record profits, selling gates. It's all about increasing that profit margin, and this is something that I want to clear to people. I know a little bit of this from the radio point of view, because obviously we've seen like radio in the UK completely slide. So I'll make this really, really fast. But the actual money coming in, the turnover isn't going up. So what they need to do is find a way to increase this bit here, which is the profit, which goes to the shareholders and what the company does. So what they do is, this is the expenses. So they take that down. And what happens? The profit grows. So
that's a lot of people are taking aim at TKO. And don't get me wrong, I've not been fully on board with a lot of the direction that WWE's gone in under the TKO umbrella. But it's certainly not
another episode. A lot to say about that.
But it's certainly not unique. I think a lot of people online, in particular, are acting like this is a first. I'm like, it doesn't matter if it's TKO or not. These cuts have been part of WWE for decades. Like, this is not anything new. It's not TKO exclusive. Granted, the money that TKO is making would make you think that they'd look after certain talents, but we are fresh off the back of Nick Khan saying he doesn't bench people, and maybe this is a sign of them not benching people. They'd rather just let you go.
Well, if you're or I think I saw another slight version of it, or maybe it was somebody else going, if you're benched, you're in line for potentially being cut. That's how it is now. That's them trying to maybe streamline a lineup. That's maybe them looking at, they're bringing in other talents and other names. Maybe it's just a new era of pro wrestling. Maybe there's no such thing as the 5-year guaranteed contract unless you truly are a big name. You know, it's going to be interesting. But let's talk a little bit about the names and talk about their options. First of all, Braun Strowman. Like I say, I've been a big fan of Braun. I've always liked the monster among men. I thought his second run was great. I thought it was leading somewhere, Ryan, to be honest. I thought they're really using him as an attraction. This is leading somewhere. Never really got the world title run that he could have got. Some missteps in that first run, but I thought this run had been good. But if he is on like 1.5 million, I can imagine that's problematic. So in terms of where he goes next, he is an attraction, dude. He is an attraction. He could spend some time in Japan. He could spend some time in TNA. I know that seems mental. Him being in TNA, having just left WWE, we're just trying to.
Listen, just to foreshadow some of the conversation, I think a lot of these guys might be linked with moves to TNA, so I wouldn't rule it out. You know.
Yeah, which would be lower wages, but I mean, we just saw India Hartwell's just signed with TNA. Great move. Love India Hartwell. Big fan of her. But for Braun, I think he could turn up anywhere. I would say Braun needs to be an attraction. Maybe he has somebody that's on their TV every week, but he needs to have a reason to be there. He needs to have a reason to be there.
Braun is in a predicament right now. We all know that his knees aren't exactly in the greatest of conditions. He's probably thinking about the end of his career. I'd assume that is in the near future, but I don't think this will be the way he wants to bow out, and neither it should be. I think he's had a career deserving enough of a good ending. In fact, Billy, one of my biggest problems about the Braun Strowman release is the ending, because the last thing that he was mentioned with on any form of WWE-related content was Paul Heyman telling him, not to his face, that he sucked. And that's quite sad to me.
Yeah, that seems like bullshit burial, doesn't it? It's do you know the thing is though? he's really articulate. He's got a good sense of humor. He could be somewhere he could find himself in Hollywood. He could find himself in broadcasting. He might go back to what kind of brought him to the dance, which was like World's Strongest Man. I mean, maybe investment there, developing that sport. I mean, hell, the day after he got released, news came out. I don't know if you've seen it, but his videos of him literally going, "Gonna go jet ski," and I thought he doesn't seem too bothered. So
it's not his first rodeo. He's been here before. He's got a pretty good ways that he's picked up these last 2 or 3 years since he came back.
I'd imagine there's a bit of chunk of change and potentially some earning options there. Maybe he's been wise with his money. We know his family come from like farming stock and that type of thing. Maybe it's the money's already working for him.
Braun is a good guy, and I'm pretty sure he will land on his feet no matter what is next for him. As you said, he's got a hell of a personality on him.
He really does.
He could be doing anything in broadcasting and media and sport. There's so many options for Braun. I don't fear for his future.
Shaina Basler, I've always been a big fan of Shaina. They completely fumbled her debut on going back to her taking on Becky Lynch. They completely fumbled that. When they bizarrely made her bite the back of Becky's neck for no fucking good reason, like a vampire. Don't know if anyone remembers that, but I do. Where Shaina Basler goes next? Well, Shayna's getting up there. I think she's 40 odd or over 40, even though I know in the modern day parlance that's not really much of a thing. And Shaina can definitely still go. But with connections to GCW, she's been a big part of that. Obviously, there's Josh Barnett's Bloodsport. And again, she's a bit of a personality herself. I mean, she's a fucking badass. There's someone you could put in a movie. There's someone you can put in your roster and instantly is going to be a game changer. And her fucking name is Shaina Basler. You ain't taking that off her. So she has name value, Ryan.
Listen, we've already seen Shaina doing stuff with Bloodsport, GCW, a couple of other wee things on the side while still being under contract with WWE. So once again, somebody who I think that he'll have plenty of options. And in regards to her WWE release, no fault of her own. I'm not stunned. I would be lying if I said I was stunned. I think this has been something that's coming for a while now, in the sense that they've really not had anything to do with her. They threw her into the tag team with Zoe Stark, clearly with a vision for Stark somewhere and not so much for Shaina. I mean, everything kind of went downhill from the minute she had to lose to Becky Lynch. And you used the word fumbled. It's bang on the money, Billy.
Fumble. Well, one thing we have to talk about before we get into a couple of other releases, just quickly, Ryan, is a lot of women released on this one.
Yeah,
a lot of women released.
That's right. I'm
not a fan of this, with the impending announcement of Evolution 2.0 apparently on the way.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like there's a lack of investment in the women's tag team divisions and NXT and SmackDown on Raw.
You're taking one of the points straight from me that I was going to bring up, and I was very vocal about on my Twitter the other night.
I saw that.
I mean, if you look at the main roster releases, right, we've already been through Braun and Shaina. The other three main roster releases are all female. It's Dakota Kai, then Kaden Carter and Katana Chance. Just to talk about Kaden and Katana for a moment. Number one, best of luck to them. Number two, why on earth are WWE releasing, pound for pound, the most comfortable and best women's tag team in the entire company when they are struggling to build a women's tag division? Retire the belts. There is no point in these women's tag team championships. There is rumors coming out that Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan will continue to hold these tag titles while Liv Morgan is away shooting this new film that she's being cast in.
Yeah.
God knows how long she's going to be away for. Yet you're releasing a team who should be the most credible tag team in that division. You're giving titles to either teams that have existed for 5 minutes or teams that aren't even going to be properly together because one's away filming in Hollywood. Those titles should not be bothered to exist anymore. It's just a waste of time. It's pointless. If that's the way that you're going to treat a division that you could ideally build around these two athletes.
Well, you've nailed it. It's a case of if you don't have a plan for the belts, get rid of them. I know, they might go, oh, that's an embarrassing bad look for us. But if no one's competing for them, if people aren't caring about these belts, and hey, look, I'm a big fan of Zoe Stark. I actually really liked her tag team with Shaina Basler as well.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it seemed to be, here it is, now it's gone. Here it is, now it's gone. Here it is now. And I get the feeling fans wanted to connect with them. Like, I genuinely think
it's almost as if every time they're about to try and build a credible tag team, something comes along like Bayley and Lyra Valkyria, or something comes along like Becky Lynch and Lita, or something that comes along like Charlotte and Tamina. I don't know. Teams that have been manufactured for the sake of what they think is plans for the foreseeable future just to keep top stars happy.
No, I think you've nailed it. And it is worrying, the names that have been released. I mean, Dakota Kai, again, it's kind of like the Braun Strowman thing. It's like, oh, come on to fuck. Even though, excuse the language, but Dakota's not really done a lot in the last, 6 to 8 months, really. It feels like...
This is the one that seems to be causing the biggest noise and the loudest amount of noise on social media, her release. And it's obviously the last main roster one we have to discuss. I'm gutted for her because I thought that she was really on the precipice of doing something, Billy. I thought that she was so close. I mean, Christ, she made it to the finals of the inaugural Intercontinental Championship tournament. So how do you go from something? How do you not, and this isn't Dakota Kai I'm aiming this towards, how do you put someone in that position to then releasing them less than 3 months later or something? It's nuts.
We seem to see more and more of that on and WWE programming. We have done over the last couple of years. It's like, how does that happen? How does someone go from being yep, oh, they lost, oh well, in that case we better release them? Yeah, they lost because you decided they lost.
Yes, exactly. It's not a real sport. Like, not to sound like one of those WWE naysayers. It's not. It's we're living in a world where the corporate guys, the guys in suits, are making the decisions of who are winning the matches. It's not real. Yeah. So
the idea
to put her in that position and release her, bonkers.
Yeah, I don't know how it's happened. You that fucking decided that's how it happened. So, Dakota Kai, but I think these really options for her there. One thing I wanted to bring up, Ryan, just quickly, is a lot of people are saying, well, what about Tony Khan in AEW? The boat has steadied a little bit in AEW, and it's great to see. I have to say, the booking, we've seen improvements in the booking and what have you, and improvements in the fortune and what have you. AEW has been quite enjoyable for the last month or so. I would say, and I'm going to cut, I will briefly come back to it. Tony, focus on the booking. Only bring in somebody if you need to. Like, really, don't just go, oh, brilliant, oh, brilliant. However, there is one combo that I really think you need to take a look at. And it's got to be the Gallus boys. Let's talk about them just quickly.
Let's slide into the NXT side of things, shall we? With Gallus, I think that's a good place to start. With us being Scottish, with you being a former colleague of the Gallus boys.
Well, I have what I've got to say is, first of all, I hold Joe Coffey, Wolfgang, and of course Mark in very high regard, particularly Joe and Wolfie, who I know pretty well. God, Joe's a former broadcast colleague of mine, which kind of brings me to the three lads in general. Incredible talents. I mean, Joe Coffey was one of the first hybrid wrestlers to come out of the United Kingdom. Guy can fly, can grapple, he has incredible power, great on the mic, great. And that was a guy who went from not being great on the mic to being great on the mic. I mean, that's someone that, having shared the commentary booth with him, man, just give it the beans. And Mark Coffey was fantastic in his singles run here with ICW. And of course, Wolfgang's a fucking franchise builder. I wouldn't hear a word against the guys. As a threepum, fantastic, brilliant. So let's talk about their options. First of all, I don't think they should rush into anything. I don't like. I really, I don't know what the gentlemen's options are. Like, I don't know if we're going to, stay here in the United States, or we're going to come home and do the nostalgia tour, or we're going to come home and we'll have you. Yep. Well, the UK scene is rebuilding quite a bit. So, but I think these options for these three, because of their talents, I mean, you've got 2-3 tag teams with combinations within those three guys. But so God, we could see them in MLW, we could see them in GCW, because they can be instantly your game-changing trio, your game-changing top of the card heels, faces, wherever you put them. Like wherever you put them.
There are so many independent promotions, especially in North America, where they will still be based for the foreseeable, I imagine. There's so many independent promotions over there that need to be on the blower to these guys as soon as possible. Like, this is a top tier act as a trio that I don't think that anybody will want to really miss out on.
Definitely not. And you think of the companies across Europe, you think of the companies across the United Kingdom, main event stars. I mean, these three turn up at Progress, these three turn up at ICW, these three turn up at Rev Pro. These are like instantly, boom. But put them in storylines, put them in stuff that's going to bring people in. It's just not an attraction. Put things in storylines that make people going to want to come back, because I believe a lot like Drew was, these three gentlemen, Joe, Mark, and Wolfie, could be game changers for the UK scene.
I think so as well. And I'm really hoping that I get the chance to work with them at some point.
Yes.
If they do decide to come back and do something with ICW, that would be absolutely fantastic. But just in terms of the general UK scene, I think it could be huge, because these are three guys who have went over, who have started to build that brand on a worldwide scale. Let's just call it how it is.
Yeah.
It is a worldwide scale. I mean, NXT, of course, isn't quite Raw or SmackDown, but they're known entities now.
Yep.
And to bring that over here would be really healthy, I think, both for themselves and for obviously the UK scene. It's up to them, ultimately, what they want to do. I think that in NXT, there was an element of mismanagement that didn't get them to where they should have been. But they can go away and they can show that to them, and who knows what the future holds. It could be a route back there. I don't know. It's not my place to speculate that future.
I think in NXT, I think you nailed it. For me, it was a little, well, just not given the regular exposure, the consistency on our TV. I think what the boys might have had working against them was just their sheer talent and their consistency. Being so good, you can slot in absolutely anywhere, is almost a problem. I mean, you hear about football players, I mean, guys that are like fringe players, and you can put them in midfield, you can put them up front, you can put them, in defense. But the problem is when you're viewed in that way, then it almost feels like they're not too sure what to do with you. And I genuinely feel like they should have committed to it. Like, kind of like the metaphor, what have you. Like, they've almost suffered from the same thing. Like, you clearly view this as a great thing, but you're just not able to push it in the way you should. So, look, away from that as well, I also think they would do well if they went to Japan. You think about it, there's a new Bullet Club right there. Right there.
And there's plenty of guys that are in a similar sort of position from Scotland if they wanted to build on that as well and expand that group. There's plenty. I mean, you think of guys like Jack Morris over there, for example. Like, there is name.
Think about it. We could have ourselves an international Bullet Club, but we could have, I'm just, again, what I'm basically saying with these guys is I think the door's wide open. However, I just considered this, talking to you, Tony, for a second. Can you help but notice you have an international tour? Notice you had a tour of the UK coming up.
A show in Glasgow, maybe?
We're going to end up in Glasgow. But I'm not just talking about Glasgow. Selfishly, yes. What I'm also saying is you've got 3 UK prime international talents who can wrestle and work with anybody. From, top Japanese talents to American talents to European talents. Make the call, Tony.
Yep. I mean, that'll be well after the 30-day no-compete clause is done. So
do what WWE didn't.
Not a terrible idea, that.
Do what they did. You've got an instant ready-made. I mean, you think about that, they could wrestle any team. 6-man tags, hugely popular in Japan. Get it on Forbidden Door. Joe Coffey in particular can literally work with anybody. And they get the big homecoming in Glasgow, which will be replicated across the UK and across Europe. And that will translate to your American audience. So, Tony, if I was looking to make any signings, even if it was short term, I would make the call to the Gallus boys, because, and that's not taking anything away from other WWE talents, I don't think the Grizzled Young Vets quite worked out. I'm going to come out and say that. I don't think it really worked out for them in AEW or ROH, or not the way maybe they wanted to.
I find it hard to argue.
But I genuinely think this is a main event. A main roster. I know there isn't really a main roster, not a main roster in AEW, but I think that's even if it's a 6-month deal, Tony, make the call.
I hope Tony has seen this somehow. I really do.
GBOT, mate. Call them GBOT. Can I call them Gallus? GBOT.
Love that.
NXT. If you start watching, particularly Joe, I've given him so many monikers and what have you over the years. It's like, boys, that's your last freebie. That's your last freebie.
Get this man paid, for goodness sake. NXT was a hub for releases because there was, of course, outside of the 3 Wolfgang boys, there was another 8 NXT releases, which included Cora Jade, Gigi Dolan, Eddie Thorpe, Jakara Jackson, Riley Osborne, Oro Mensah, and Danny Palmer. So a few releases in there, some more significant than others.
Eddie Thorpe, there's another one. That's a guy that was challenging for the heavyweight title. Was in the
listen, I was not a huge Eddie Thorpe fan. I thought there was a lot missing there with Eddie. Not doubting his talent in terms of athlete and wrestler. I think he was great. Just a little bit left to be desired in the character side of things. I think he was really struggling to kind of find himself and connect with the audience. So I'm not stunned in that regard. But what I am stunned about is what exactly you said. This is a guy who was challenging for titles and really trying to elevate him. And I don't know if it's maybe he's one of these guys that we're hearing was maybe down to training issues. I don't know, but I don't want to tar anybody under that brush, because I believe that all these guys they get here for a reason. They've got to be hard working.
Yeah, I guess it's like the Von Wagner thing last year. It's like what? You were literally on the TV in a massive feud like last week, and then you're gone. How does that work?
The one I'm most gutted. Sorry, what were you saying?
I was just about to say we don't write for WWE. We don't know how this works.
No, of course not.
I was surprised to see his name in there. Don't know how I feel about it either way, to be honest, but there we are.
And the one I was most gutted about was Cora, and I don't say that from a Gunner point of view, which I know that a lot of people online are using as the excuse for gutting. But I genuinely was surprised, because I thought for the last 2 or 3 years, outside of her injury, that she was going to be a huge player in the women's division in NXT. And then beyond that, we see the success that Roxanne has gone on to have, and with her NXT title run, now looking like it's going to be going into the main roster, and who knows whether that goes. But I thought Cora wouldn't be far behind in that. I thought that she'd eventually get a run with the title. She had a really strong support and fan base, and it's just not happening. I don't know if injuries have played a big part of that, but here we are, man.
I wonder if the injury and the CM Punk connection bought her some time. I don't really know. Again, I guess somebody has to go. Rumor has it it's a case of Nick Khan says to Triple H when it's time, and Triple H is the one that makes the final decision. And I guess it needs to be someone.
Yep.
I guess it needs to be someone, and there might be a million reasons. I mean, you got to bear in mind, I remember being told this years ago, they sign you to an NXT contract, they have invested time, they've invested money on you, they want to get that back. Once they have, you kind of go up, or you go down, and that's it.
Well, look, listen, there's plenty. I think, especially not to spend too much time on them, but the girls like Cora, Jakara Jackson, etc. Like, I think that there is so many opportunities for them in a world where women's wrestling is blossoming, where there is opportunities. We see Stardom, we see TNA building a strong women's division. We obviously know how good the AEW women's division is. There is options for it wherever they end up, and once again, you never know where that path will lead you. You might end up back, you might end up doing better, you might end up like Matt Cardona. So I think all these people will be fine.
Yeah, and he's gave great advice, and I'd imagine. I mean, God, going back to the Gallus boys very briefly, knowing the work ethic of those three gentlemen, and I'm sure as their contemporaries of everyone else on this list, I am sure people are going to be working so goddamn hard, and I look forward to seeing Dakota Kai get an opportunity in AEW, or maybe TNA, or maybe heading to Japan, and then again, Ryan, if these guys have got their money and they go, that was fun. Let's go and do something else. That's cool as well. That's cool. It's just part of life. But no, it's never nice to see these. It always makes me a bit sad. It always makes SmackDown a bit of a hard watch.
You've seen Damian Priest, man. Just he looked like a defeated man. He looked broken inside. I know he's very close with Caden Carter, and I think you could. I mean, why do these releases an hour before your stars are meant to be live on television, man? You've got a full weekend to do it. It just seems daft to me, but it did make it tough to watch.
No, it always does. I remember this happening last year. And I remember the SmackDown being on, felt like it was even the same time of day. It just makes you go, it just takes the shit, the kind of bloom off the nose for me a bit. It's almost pulling the curtain back too far again and getting reminded about the realities of being an adult.
It's a job, It's we all get sucked into thinking it's fun and games and sugar and candy. It's a job and it's livelihoods at the end of the day. So I do genuinely wish every single one of these people who've been released all the best.
Yeah, I really do, and I think we might even see them back in WWE one day.
I think there's a few of them.
Particularly the women's division. I'm genuinely worried about that. Still sad we didn't get to see the Gallus boys, who I believe they could be, know they could be, and things just not happening, mate. And with Karrion Kross losing his goddamn mind and then losing on main event, which is really starting to fuck me off, WWE. I've got to say. But Grayson Waller has a job. Never mind. Don't wish anybody getting released. I want to make that clear. Right? It's just about fun. Would it really be the end of the world if Grayson Waller were released? I'm just chucking it out there. It is.
Well, that's it. We'll see what comes next, and I'm sure we'll probably hear about more at some point later in the year. We usually do.
Definitely. Well, listen, if you've enjoyed this kind of shorter, I think we've gone 30 minutes, but trust me, they will be shorter. If you've enjoyed these kind of little bullet point ones, by all means, put it in the comments. Let us know. We'll jump on and do more of them. Let us know what you think of the releases as well. We would love to hear from you. What are the options? You can be as genuine, you can be as brutal as you like, or you can just send messages of support, whatever you think. Put it in the comments. We would love to hear from you. And hey, upwards and onwards in the world of pro wrestling. That's pretty much it. Right, Big Right. Will we get out of here?
We'll get out of here.
All right, my friends. See you next time.
See you next time. Right. Good.